Germany.
Germany is facing one of its biggest economic crises since the reunification in 1990.
There's something seriously wrong with Germany's economy.
This is Germany, and for decades, Germany has been celebrated as the economic engine of Europe, a global leader in manufacturing, innovation, and trade. With a robust industrial base, a reputation for precision engineering, and a strong export-driven economy, Germany has long been a symbol of European economic strength. But today, that engine is sputtering.
To add insult to injury, Goldman Sachs is forecasting that Trump tariffs could pull the entire EU's GDP down by 1%, wiping out $155 billion in economic production from an already struggling economy.
In 2024, headlines across Europe and the world have painted a grim picture of Germany's economy. Growth has stalled, inflation is biting hard, and key industries are struggling to compete on the global stage.
It will be difficult, to be frank, to compete on the price level with the Chinese car.
The powerhouse of Europe is facing an economic crisis unlike anything seen since the reunification of East and West Germany.
For many concerns about Germany going forward. Is it now the sick man of Europe?
It's stagnating. It's been stagnating for a long time. And the focus of this stagnation is really manufacturing, where things are just not getting better.
Germany, Europe's wealthiest nation, a country known for its economic heft, but now a country staring at an economic crisis.
In 2024, Germany's GDP grew by a meager 0.2%, compared to 2.7% in 2021, while inflation hovered around 6%, higher than the EU average of 5.3%. Industrial production, once the backbone of Germany's success, has contracted by 4.6% year over year. So, what has led Germany to this point? Why is Europe's strongest economy faltering now? To understand, we need to start with a critical factor: energy. Germany's reliance on Russian gas has long been a double-edged sword. For years, cheap energy imports fueled its factories and homes, but the war in Ukraine turned that stability into chaos. In 2022, the Nord Stream pipelines, which delivered much of Germany's gas supply, were shut down due to geopolitical tensions and sabotage. This left Germany scrambling to secure energy from alternative sources. The result? Skyrocketing energy prices.
If I wanted to go into a hot tub in my gym, they're saying that they're not going to be able to heat the hot tubs anymore.
We're definitely worried that this winter is going to be really difficult. We're trying to put some money aside.
It gets a big issue, especially for people with lower income.
I will hug my dog. She will keep me warm.
By the end of 2023, electricity prices for German households had risen by 38%. Compared to 2021. Industrial energy costs surged by over 70%, forcing some manufacturers to cut production or relocate to countries with cheaper energy.
Well, we have an interesting discrepancy. Many German headquartered businesses are doing good globally, but they are struggling with the operations in their home country.
For the industry, is it bad enough to think about relocating?
It is indeed. There's a significant percentage of companies, and not only the multinationals with their global footprint, but a lot of mid-sized family-owned companies who have very operational plans to relocate.
This energy crisis hit Germany's industrial sector, the heart of its economy, particularly hard. Sectors like chemicals, automotive, and steel manufacturing rely heavily on energy-intensive processes. Companies like BASF, a chemical giant, announced plans to downsize operations in Germany, citing unsustainable energy costs.
It's a symbol of Germany's economic might, the chemicals factory of BASF in the city of Ludwigshafen. It helped spread Germany's industrial power around the world. Now, it's axing 2,600 jobs here. All the while, it's opening a new $10 billion factory in China.
BASF reported that energy costs in Germany were 3 times higher than in the United States, making it impossible to remain competitive. To address this, Germany accelerated its transition to renewable energy, aiming to reduce dependency on fossil fuels. While admirable, this transition has been fraught with challenges. Investments in wind and solar farms take years to materialize, and the decommissioning of nuclear power plants, once a cornerstone of Germany's energy policy, has left a significant energy gap. Germany decommissioned its last 3 nuclear reactors in April 2023, removing a source that once supplied 13% of the country's electricity. Moreover, the energy crisis has put a strain on Germany's export-driven economy. High production costs make German goods less competitive in international markets, threatening its trade surplus. As energy prices soar and industrial production falters, Germany's economic challenges only deepen. But this is just one part of a larger story. Germany's industrial might has always been its pride and backbone, driving exports, creating jobs, and cementing its position as a global economic leader. However, in recent years, the pillars of this industrial strength have started to crack. At the core of Germany's economic model lies its manufacturing sector, contributing nearly 21% of its GDP, far above the EU average of 15%. But now, a perfect storm of rising energy costs, shifting global demand, and fierce competition is threatening this critical sector. In 2023, Germany's industrial production contracted by 4.6%, marking its steepest decline in over a decade. The automotive industry, which alone accounts for 11% of German exports, saw a significant drop in production due to supply chain disruptions and higher operational costs.
Germany has long been the powerhouse of Europe, and its economy is largely driven by world-leading automobile companies like Volkswagen, BMW, and Mercedes-Benz. In fact, for years, these auto giants were the symbol of innovation and top-class German engineering. But the engine is now starting to slow down. Massive layoffs, factory closures, and rising competition are shaking the very foundation of Germany's industrial strength.
One of the biggest culprits behind this deindustrialization is the global shift towards cleaner energy and electric vehicles, EVs. While Germany has excelled in traditional automotive engineering, it has struggled to keep pace with competitors like Tesla and Chinese EV makers such as BYD. German auto giants like Volkswagen and BMW are now racing to catch up, but they face an uphill battle. In 2023, Chinese automakers surpassed Germany in global EV exports for the first time, capturing a 35% share of the market compared to Germany's 20%. Additionally, the soaring cost of energy is driving many manufacturers to consider relocating abroad. Countries like the United States, with its Inflation Reduction Act and cheaper energy prices, have become attractive alternatives for German companies. In late 2023, Siemens Energy announced plans to shift part of its production to the US, citing energy costs that are 50% lower than in Germany. The ripple effects of deindustrialization are already visible. Thousands of jobs are at risk, particularly in regions heavily dependent on manufacturing, such as Bavaria and Baden-Württemberg.
Volkswagen's historic move to consider factory closures in Germany for the first time in 87-year history.
Volkswagen epitomizes German engineering.
This is probably its most serious struggle in its history.
The loss of industrial capacity also threatens Germany's export-led growth model, which has long relied on a trade surplus to balance its economy. But deindustrialization isn't just an economic challenge, it's a geopolitical one. As Germany loses its manufacturing edge, its ability to influence global trade and compete with rising powers like China is also diminishing. If deindustrialization is the storm, then inflation is the suffocating fog enveloping Germany's economy. The country is now grappling with a toxic combination of rising prices and stagnant growth, a classic case of stagflation. Germany's inflation rate reached 6% in 2023. Significantly impacting consumer purchasing power. Meanwhile, GDP growth was virtually flat, with the economy expanding by just 0.2%, the slowest among the G7 nations. For ordinary Germans, this means higher prices for everyday essentials. Groceries, housing, and energy bills have become increasingly unaffordable. The middle class, once the cornerstone of Germany's economic stability, is shrinking under the weight of these rising costs. In Berlin, the average cost of a two-bedroom apartment surged by 12% in 2023, making homeownership a distant dream for many young Germans.
I'm a German who has been living in the US for a little over 5 years now, and last year I even bought a house here. Something that I definitely wouldn't have done if I had stayed in Germany.
The average Berlin rent has doubled over the last decade, and 85% of residents are renters.
Inflation is also eroding the profitability of German businesses. Higher input costs, particularly for energy and raw materials, are squeezing margins, forcing companies to raise prices or cut jobs to survive. Small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, which account for 99% of German businesses, are especially vulnerable. Compounding the problem is Germany's unique position within the Eurozone. As the largest economy in the bloc, Germany wields significant influence over the European Central Bank's monetary policy. However, the ECB's attempts to combat inflation through interest rate hikes have further stifled economic growth. The ECB raised interest rates to 4.5% in 2023, the highest level since the euro's inception. This move increased borrowing costs for German businesses and households, further dampening economic activity. Germany is also facing a structural issue: its heavy reliance on exports. With global demand weakening due to geopolitical tensions and economic uncertainty, Germany's trade surplus has shrunk dramatically. In 2023, Germany's trade surplus fell to 80 billion euros, down from 240 billion euros a decade ago. Germany is facing a demographic time bomb. For years, its aging population has been a well-documented concern, but the reality of its impact is now hitting the economy hard. With a declining birth rate, an aging workforce, and increasing retirements, Germany is struggling to sustain its economic output.
German companies changing their minds when it comes to older workers, do you think, or are they acting out of necessity?
They are acting out of necessity. They got used to early retirement, which was subsidized by the state. But now retirement age is increased and early retirement is abolished, and companies have to face this situation. And suddenly their workforce is getting older, and they have to retrain them. They have to improve the working conditions to keep them productive in the company.
By 2024, nearly 22% of Germany's population was aged 65 or older. The fertility rate remains stubbornly low at 1.53 children per woman, well below the replacement level of 2.1. This demographic shift has led to a labor shortage across key industries, from manufacturing to healthcare. With fewer workers entering the labor market, productivity is declining, and companies are struggling to fill critical roles.
The companies in Germany are warning about the economic impact of demographic changes in the country's workforce. An aging population means managers are struggling to fill positions as more skilled workers retire. It's placing pressure on firms, particularly in the manufacturing sector.
Germany's healthcare sector needs an estimated 500,000 additional workers by 2030 to meet demand, but current trends suggest a significant shortfall. Similarly, engineering and IT sectors are reporting record-high job vacancies. The government has attempted to address this issue through immigration, bringing in skilled workers from abroad to offset the labor deficit. However, these efforts are facing resistance. In 2023, Germany admitted 1.4 million migrants, but bureaucratic hurdles and integration challenges have limited their ability to immediately contribute to the economy. The political and social implications of this demographic decline are also significant. Public sentiment toward immigration has become increasingly polarized, with far-right parties gaining traction by criticizing the government's policies. Meanwhile, younger generations are expressing frustration with a system that seems incapable of addressing housing affordability, education quality, and job security. Without bold reforms, Germany's shrinking workforce will cripple its economy in the long term.
Everyone looking for housing these days in Germany has a huge problem. Almost 700,000 affordable flats are missing, and the only way to avoid it is to move to Eastern Germany, in the rural side. Only 46% of people living in Germany own their own house, and now with the rising costs, it has become almost impossible with someone on an average salary to buy their own place. Renting has also become a nightmare, because in Munich, for example, for a square meter you pay 19 euros more or less, in Stuttgart around 18, Düsseldorf and Cologne 13, and Berlin 11. Generally, you have to send applications just like with jobs and compete with dozens of other people for a place. The German government has announced plans to build 400,000 new homes per year, but in reality just over half will be achieved this year, and in 2024 the target will be missed again.
I really hope you all are enjoying this video. If yes, so I have one request. Treating these type of videos takes hell lot of time, research, and money. So as this channel is very new, please like and subscribe. Also, comment something so that this video can reach to other people's as well. Germany's economic crisis is not just a product of external forces, it's also rooted in internal political challenges. The government, led by Chancellor Olaf Scholz, has struggled to implement cohesive policies to address the nation's economic woes. A coalition of ideologically diverse parties has created gridlock, delaying critical reforms. A 2023 poll by Infratest DIMAP revealed that 62% of Germans were dissatisfied with the government's handling of the economy, with trust in political institutions at an all-time low. One of the most contentious issues has been energy policy. The government's decision to phase out nuclear power while doubling down on renewable energy has left many questioning its foresight. Critics argue that these policies have exacerbated the energy crisis, making Germany less competitive on the global stage. In 2023, public protests erupted in major cities like Berlin and Hamburg over soaring energy bills and the slow pace of renewable energy infrastructure development. Additionally, Germany's leadership within the European Union is under scrutiny. As the bloc's largest economy, Germany plays a pivotal role in shaping EU-wide policies. However, its economic struggles have limited its ability to act as a stabilizing force. In 2024, Germany contributed 25% of the EU's budget, but internal challenges have led to delays in fulfilling its commitments to joint European initiatives, such as the Green Deal and military investments. Far-right and populist movements are also gaining momentum, capitalizing on economic grievances and dissatisfaction with the current government. These groups are calling for a shift away from EU integration and globalization, further straining Germany's political landscape. The result is a vicious cycle. Political instability undermines investor confidence, which in turn hampers economic recovery. Without decisive action, Germany risks falling further into a state of economic and political stagnation. Germany's economic model is heavily reliant on exports, making it deeply embedded in global supply chains. For decades, this export-driven strategy brought prosperity, but today it has become a vulnerability. Geopolitical tensions, shifting trade dynamics, and the lingering effects of the COVID-19 pandemic have disrupted Germany's position in the global economy. The Russia-Ukraine war has been particularly devastating. Germany relied on Russia not only for energy, but also for raw materials essential to its industries. The war has forced Germany to seek alternative suppliers, driving up costs and creating inefficiencies in production. In 2023, Germany imported 25% less steel and aluminum from Russia compared to pre-war levels, forcing manufacturers to pay 30% more for materials sourced from other regions. The China factor is another challenge. For years, Germany's trade relationship with China has been a cornerstone of its economic success. China is not only a key market for German goods, but also a supplier of critical components for its industries. However, rising tensions between the West and China are threatening this relationship. German exports to China fell by 12% in 2023, driven by declining Chinese demand and a shift toward domestic production by Chinese firms. Additionally, Germany's automotive sector is facing supply chain disruptions due to the global semiconductor shortage. The heavy reliance on Asian suppliers for chips has exposed a critical weakness in Germany's industrial base. Volkswagen, Germany's largest car maker, reported a production shortfall of 15% in 2023 due to a lack of semiconductors, resulting in billions of euros in lost revenue. Germany's response has been to diversify its supply chains and reduce dependency on specific regions. However, building new trade networks and manufacturing capabilities takes time, leaving the economy vulnerable in the short term. Germany's dependence on global supply chains is both a strength and a weakness. In a world increasingly defined by geopolitical rivalries, Germany must rethink its approach. Germany's economic crisis is more than just a national issue. It's a global story with far-reaching implications. As Europe's largest economy struggles with de-industrialization, energy challenges, demographic shifts, and political uncertainty, its fate serves as a warning for other developed nations facing similar pressures. This crisis underscores the need for long-term strategic planning. Germany's heavy reliance on exports, energy imports, and a shrinking labor force left it vulnerable to external shocks like the war in Ukraine and the global energy crunch. But it also highlights opportunities, investments in renewable energy, innovation in manufacturing, and collaboration within the European Union can help rebuild its economic strength. Germany's response to this crisis will define not only its own future, but also the trajectory of the European Union and its position in a rapidly changing world order. As we wrap up, we want to hear from you. What do you think Germany should prioritize to overcome its economic challenges? Should Germany continue its ambitious climate goals, or should it focus more on stabilizing its economy first? Leave your thoughts in the comments below.